All right, let's dive in. We're going to tackle one of history's most epic confrontations, the colossal Roman Empire squaring off against the fiercely independent Jewish people of Judea. You know, this is so much more than a military story. It's really a story of power, of faith, and a clash of civilizations that would literally change the course of the world.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on these two totally opposite worldviews. Then we'll see how Rome tried to manage the whole situation. After that, we'll pinpoint the exact flashpoints where things ignited, cover the explosive wars that followed, and finally, we'll unpack the incredible legacy that still echoes today.
Okay, first up, a clash of worlds. And honestly, I can't think of a better way to put it. We are talking about two cultures that were just on an inevitable collision course.
Now this right here, this is the question at the heart of our entire story. Just think about it for a second. Rome had conquered so many different peoples, right? But with Judea, they were facing a challenge that was a whole different ballgame. This wasn't just about who had the bigger army, it was a fundamental conflict over who you ultimately answer to. This slide just lays it all out crystal clear. On one side, you have the Roman worldview, super practical, lots of gods, and the ultimate authority, the final say, always rested with the emperor and the state. But then you look at the Jewish worldview, fiercely monotheistic, one God, period. And for them, the ultimate authority was God and God alone, through this divine covenant. These weren't just minor disagreements. It was like they were running on two completely different operating systems for reality itself.
And here's the kicker. This whole ideological struggle was playing out in Judea, a tiny but, and this is key, critically important piece of real estate that acted as a buffer on the eastern frontier of the Roman Empire. So how did Rome, this hyper-pragmatic and efficient empire, try to handle what they were starting to see as their problem province? Well, let's take a look at their system of control.
You know, Rome's approach was actually pretty smart, pretty layered. They'd start with what they called client kings. Think of guys like Herod the Great. He was a local ruler, but he governed for Rome. Now, if that didn't work out, they'd move to step 2, direct rule. They'd install a Roman governor, a procurator. And even then, as a third layer, they allowed local councils, like the Sanhedrin, which was the high court for the Jewish people, to handle all the day-to-day religious and civil stuff. It was a system built to be flexible.
And when you look at this, you can see what Rome really cared about. They weren't necessarily out to destroy Jewish culture. Not at the beginning, anyway. Their goals were just, well, practical. Collect the taxes, keep the peace, the famous Pax Romana, and make sure their borders were secure. As long as all that was happening, they were pretty happy to let local customs just keep on keeping on.
But all that Roman pragmatism was about to slam headfirst into a wall of absolute, non-negotiable religious conviction. And this, right here, is where things really start to heat up.
At the absolute core of all this tension was one concept: emperor worship. Now, to the Romans, tossing a little pinch of incense to a statue of the emperor, it wasn't a huge religious act. It was more like saying the Pledge of Allegiance. It was just a simple test of loyalty to the empire that provided peace and stability. But for a monotheistic people, it was the ultimate sin. It was idolatry. It violated the single most important law of their faith.
So this one issue just created constant friction. Roman taxes weren't just a money problem, they were seen as paying tribute to foreign pagan gods. And then you had these moments of just staggering religious insensitivity, like the time the Emperor Caligula ordered a massive golden statue of himself to be put up inside the temple in Jerusalem. That's the holiest site in Judaism. It was such an outrageous act of sacrilege that it almost started the war right then and there. And it all comes back to the emperor question. For the Jewish people, refusing to worship was an act of faith. To the Romans, it was treason, plain and simple.
This one phrase, "we have no king but God," it just perfectly captures the Jewish position. It wasn't political maneuvering, it was a theological bedrock. It drew a line in the sand and set the stage for a conflict where compromise was basically impossible.
Well, eventually, after decades of all this simmering tension, the pot finally boiled over. All that friction was about to ignite into open, bloody, full-scale war.
And we've got to be really clear here. We're not talking about a few small riots. These were massive, province-wide revolts. They were all-out wars with one goal: to throw off Roman rule for good and reestablish an independent Jewish nation.
This timeline really shows you the major explosions. The First Jewish-Roman War kicks off in 66 CE, and it is just a brutal, horrifying conflict that lasts for years. It leads directly to what is probably the single most catastrophic event in all of ancient Jewish history:
the total destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem by the Romans in the year 70 CE. And even after that unbelievable devastation, another generation rose up in the Bar Kokhba revolt. One last, final, desperate, and ultimately crushed attempt at freedom.
The failure of these revolts had consequences that were just profound. They were long-lasting, and they didn't just shape the future of the Jewish people, they really shaped the course of world history.
If you remember one single date from this entire story, make it 70 CE. The destruction of the temple wasn't just knocking down a building. It was wiping out the entire center of Jewish religious, cultural, and national life. It was an absolutely earth-shattering event.
And the aftermath? It changed everything. It triggered the Jewish diaspora, the scattering of the Jewish people all over the world. It forced the religion of Judaism itself to transform. Without a temple for sacrifices, it had to evolve. It became a faith centered on rabbis, synagogues, and the deep study of sacred texts, which, amazingly, is what allowed it to survive for the next 2,000 years in exile. And this whole epic saga, it became a defining story of Jewish identity, a powerful memory of resistance against truly impossible odds.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This struggle between Roman imperial power and Jewish faith happened a long, long time ago. But the questions it raises, questions about sovereignty, about religious freedom, about the relationship between a state and its people, man, those are as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. It really makes you wonder, how do these ancient fault lines continue to shape the world we live in right now?